Welcome to a very special edition of Tarot Insights. If you've been following me on Facebook under Cindy Griffith-Bennett, you'll see that every Sunday I do a weekly forecast. It lasts about maybe 10 minutes or so, and we look at what's going on personally for many of you for that week. Well, we are going to do a more global look. We're going to look at personal, spiritual, political, financial, global, and national. We're going to look at 6 different aspects between now and the end of the year. So it's now, today is October 7th. So between October 7th and the end of the year. We're going to start out personally. So what we're going to start out with is those that are viewing this, so it's a broad spectrum of people, what is the kind of flavor you're going to have personally? And I'm viewing this more towards personal growth than your day-to-day activities, although it may reflect some of those. So let's see, I'm going to pull 5 cards for each topic. We're going to do one at a time. So personal growth, what do we need to hear for those that are going to be watching this between now and the end of the year as far as personal growth? Now I'm going to lay out 5 of these cards and then I'm going to talk about each one. Well, boy, we're going to have some moving and shaking as far as personal growth is concerned. You know, we are coming to a time over the next, I'd say next couple weeks, where we're just going to feel that the marriage has been broken. Now, this could be a literal marriage broken. Maybe there'll be more separations in the next couple weeks, but I think this has to do with our feeling that that people have let us down. And we'll see if that shows politically as well. But this is on our personal growth. And so what we're going to be looking at, let's take this more personally. How are we in the marriage with ourselves? How are we doing self-care? Over the next couple weeks, be careful not to drop the ball. Then we go to this card, the 2 of Swords. And this is more where we're just going to use our mind to figure it out. We may say, look, we got to get a grip of these emotions. We've got to get a grip of ourselves personally. Let's use our mental capacity. Let's think about it. But this is also a card of intuition. Depends on how you look at it. And so this is also a time where we may look at how are we feeling about it. What is our feeling of the future? And so although the beginning of this time seems a little bit rocky, it keeps getting better. So I'd say maybe early November to mid-November, we have this Queen of Wands. Now, cards have nothing to do with genitals, so the Queen of Wands is not only for women. But what you may find in personal growth is this idea of passionate women. Passionate, what makes us passionate, our own passions. These passions could be creative, spiritual, daily, you know, it could be helping people, being of service, but we're more likely in early November, maybe even till middle of November, to feel drawn to follow our passions. And so in our personal growth, that may be one way that we get out of the funk we start this time frame off. Then we have this card where people aren't seeing, we're not seeing opportunities. This also lines up though around the holidays. And so realize that people may be offering you an olive branch and you may not be seeing it. There may be opportunities for you for personal growth that you aren't seeing. I know the holidays are one of the biggest times for personal growth, especially if we remember that what annoys us, what bugs us, what upsets us is a lesson for us to learn. It's not necessarily saying we should put up with those things, but we need to look at it. Why is this person's attitude, or why is that person's belief system upsetting us? And so recognize that there's a lot of opportunities that may go unused around the holiday time, but we finish off the year strong. The Chariot is the protector. The Chariot is the one that not only protects family, this is the warrior, but this is also a card that's a very spiritual card. It means we recognize we're more than this body. We're more than this puny personality. And so when we talk about personal growth, and we're going to do spiritual growth next, this is a huge card. This is a card where we say we have the power. We take control. We are the writers of our destiny. We are more, though, than this body. We are spiritual beings. So that's the first thing. That's looking at what's coming up personally for us. Now let's look at the spiritual growth. Now remember, every card may not relate to you during that time frame because we are doing this for anyone that's going to be watching. And so some things may relate to you, some things may relate to someone else. So let's look at spiritually. I'm going to do the same thing, 5 cards for what's coming up for us spiritually by the end of the year. So let's look at spiritually for us, those of us that are watching this. Spiritually, what's coming up spiritually? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Wow, again, we end the year strong. So spiritually, I think right now the Queen of Pentacles to me, she represents someone who is firm but flexible in her beliefs, someone who feels secure in their groundedness. Pentacles are grounded, pentacles are energy, secure in their energy. And so spiritually, even though there may be a lot going on personally, remember we saw personally this was not a good position. Spiritually, I think when we look at it from a spiritual perspective, we're doing okay. Then we have a massive change. Now this is the card of evolution. The card of evolution, change, growth. You know, my niece today was commenting, because this is the card for today actually, and she was saying, yeah, she feels that, you know, sometimes you need the bad days to show you what are the good days. Sometimes change is what gets us moving, and that's what this means. Things are not going to stay the same, and spiritually our lesson is that that's okay. That's natural. If things stay the same, that means they're stagnant. There's no growth. We want change. We want the good days and the bad days. We want that contrast for us. And so the Wheel of Fortune to me means that we're growing spiritually. And so that's wonderful. Now, we get to November and we have a hard time. This is what I think of as the dark night of the soul. We've gone through the changes, but then we have to deal with the aftermath. And if you've ever gone through major changes, it's kind of like, you know, that feeling after a hurricane, you know. You can see where things are going to get rebuilt and they're going to get better, but they may not be better today. So spiritually, you may find that especially around that early November to mid-November, reach out to other spiritual people. If we come together and support ourselves in our spiritual growth, we'll all do better. Now, as we get to the holidays, this is a card of going back and trying things that haven't worked in the past and trying them again. And so let's say you said, oh, I tried spiritually to practice forgiveness over the holidays and I wasn't able to do it. Try it again. Try it again. Don't be afraid to try spiritual things that have maybe been dormant in your spiritual toolkit, that haven't worked before. Maybe meditating before you get all into holiday shopping, before you walk into the mall, meditate and get your energy up. Maybe that'll work this year. Maybe you've grown, but you don't recognize it. And so don't be afraid, especially over the holidays, to try things that haven't worked in the past, because they may work for you again. I have to say though, this card, even though it's reversed, I always read it as, don't be afraid to walk away from a no-win situation. It's okay. Now, we end off spiritually in a wonderful card. This to me means that there are going to be a lot of spiritual gatherings. This is a card of not being out in the cold. If it was this way, I'd be like, oh my gosh, everybody's going to stay in their homes and not talk to anybody. But this means that spiritual groups gather. We can find our people. We're not out in the cold. We're not lonely. And this is also a card of abundance. But remember, it has to be in context with what we're talking about, which is spirituality. And so we're going to have an abundance of spirituality, but it comes through connecting with others. All right, let's go to a toughie. Let's look at politically. Now, we are not going to all agree. That's what makes this world wonderful. We don't have to agree. What we can agree on, though, is to allow people to have different points of view and to allow them to be tolerant of their different points of view. I know it's hard. I struggle. I hide posts on Facebook that I don't like, but that's okay. I'm not unfriending people. I'm just hiding their posts so I don't have to be subjected to the energy. With that said, I can still be tolerant and love them for who they are, even though we have different beliefs. So we'll start out with that, with the political. So let's look and see what's coming up. Now, this would be nationwide. It may relate to some local politics, but my intention is that this is looking at politics in general, which includes local, state, federal. It's just kind of a mishmash. So what's happening politically over the next couple months? What are we going to see in our political arena within the United States? I'm not looking outside of the United States. We'll do that later. What's going to be happening in the political? Oh, this is wonderful. You know, it's also realistic. Good, bad, and ugly. We got a little bit of everything. Remember, we just had this card in our spiritual, and we talked about, yes, knowing when to walk away from a situation, but this is also try things that you've tried before that haven't worked. Politically, no matter what end of the spectrum, that to me, this is in the beginning, this is not in voting time, that would be more around the other cards, but this means, let's say you've worked for a candidate that you've liked, or you've donated money and they've lost before. This is saying try it again. Do things that maybe you've tried before, haven't worked politically, but they are more likely to work, especially in, say, the next 3 to 4 weeks. Then we have this Page of Wands. The Page of Wands is usually someone who is manipulative, and so there could be some manipulation, but it's a page, it's small. I would say that this manipulation wouldn't be widespread, it would be small, but do realize that I think around the election times there's going to be some manipulation, and we just need to be careful with that. Now then, we have right after the elections, we have the Star card leading also to the Nine of Pentacles. And so this whole time from early November to early December, no matter what side you are, I think you're going to feel that you got some wins. You've got some positive. Maybe it's because we look at it from a more spiritual perspective and we understand that when everyone wins a little, everyone wins. But this shows the Star. I think that this means we are going to see at least 6 to 8 shining stars, and to me those are newer people that are coming in, that their star is just rising. So again, I'm not predicting who gets more votes. That's not my job, and I don't want to start a political commentary, but I feel that what you're going to find is that there are going to be some rising stars, and I feel the economy is going to be seen as positive, because this is the card of the wealthy person. Now, that could mean the wealthier get wealthy, where the wealthy get wealthier. I'm not 100% sure on that. When I ask a follow-up card, my feeling is that it may be a sign of some wealthy get wealthier. Not everyone is going to see that abundance. And I feel that there may be some changes to tax laws that take about 3 to 6 years to be actually recognized, but I do feel that there could be some changes there that may try to redistribute, but I'm just not sure if it's going to be successful. But again, we're just looking short term. Overall, I feel that people are going to feel good about money around the holidays, and that to me means good numbers for shopping. Holiday shopping. I think the numbers will be good. Then we come into the end of the year, so this is Christmas through New Year's, and I think we're going to see same old, that people aren't working together politically, and that what we thought was this wonderful new vibration is short-lived. But it's a light at the end of the tunnel. I think we're going to see some positivity come out of the political spectrum over the next few months. Now, let's look at the financial world. Maybe that'll give us a little more insight. Now, what I'm looking at is not necessarily your pocket, but the overall United States pocket. And I think I'm just being led to divide it into 2 categories, because we got that mix of how is the upper class doing versus the middle and lower class, I'm going to do a working man's class and what I would call a white collar class. And let's see how it works financially for both. So I'm going to lay out two levels of cards. First, well, you know what? I think what I'm going to do is overall. We're going to do overall, and then I'm going to do working class, because I do feel that the majority of us looking at this are probably in that, Dave's laughing at me, are probably in that working class. So I'm going to do overall, which probably is going to reflect the stock market, and then I'm going to do working class, because most of us are not overly invested in the stock market. Okay, so let's see. So this first is we're going to focus on stock market over the next couple months. I just made a face. A good psychic doesn't make a face when she gets a crappy card. Okay, so overall stock market. Now we're going to look at, what about the working Joes? What about the majority of us? How are we going to do financially over the next couple months? Okay, well, let me tell you, you don't need to buy people's love over the holidays. That's what I say to people when I see some money challenges coming up. All right. So it's not only a challenge for us, it's also a challenge for what I would call the stock market. Between now and November 5th, I feel there's going to be a stock market dip and then recovery. I feel that this dip will not be so huge that it can't be overcome. I feel that we may be looking at anywhere from 300 to maybe, which is nothing in today's stock market, to 3,000, which would be felt quite strong. Well, no, 1,300. I think between 300 and 1,300, we're going to see a dip between now and election day. Now, let me preface this. You will never, ever be recommended to make any stock purchases, sales, or anything based on a psychic, okay? Because we can be wrong. So I'm putting that out there. Don't make any decisions on this. Now, it does show that there's some deception in the stock market. I feel that a company, a big company, it may not be GE, but it's the size of a GE company. So we're looking at size company where it's going to come to light that there has been some deception in the numbers. But by the time you get to the holidays and into the beginning of December, the stock market levels out. Everything seems to be good. The end of year, I do feel that there's going to be a little bit of instability. I think it's going to have to do with foreign markets, not our market. That could create some stability at the end of the year. Now let's look at ours. Let me move these up. I think that we're going to be overconfident at the holidays. I think that money is not good now, no matter what they're saying for the economy. I think that we are overspending. I think that there are the heating costs are really, or some sort of home expense, I believe it's usually heating when it comes in the winter, is going to go really high. And so what I would suggest is everyone create their own poop fund, right? So that means that when the weather isn't so cold, although I live in Virginia, so it's actually hot today, when it isn't so cold, you put a little extra away for that heating bill. So let's create an poop fund to cover this heating bill that I see, or some sort of, I believe it's energy cost that comes up because of probably some sort of catastrophe, or could be terrorism in another country. I don't believe it's terrorism here, but there's some sort of, the tower to me is a terrorism. So I feel that heating oil or some sort of cost is going to go up during the winter. But I think that because we don't get that bill at the same time the expenses go up, I think we're going to go around and spend too much money in the holidays, and then we're going to be paying for it towards the end of the year, beginning of New Year. So if I can say anything, people don't want your gifts. People want your time, your energy, your love. Don't go crazy spending money over the holidays this holiday, because you may find it puts you in a little bit of a bind. So now that's financial. Sorry to be doom and gloom, but I can only say what comes up. Personally and spiritually, it looks like we're having a great time. But let's look now nationally. How are we going to be doing as a nation over the next couple months? As a nation over the next couple months. Well, that is not surprising. How are we doing as a nation? Oh, that's good news. All right. Right now, we are all being rather, I don't want to say childish, but we are not loving each other. Let's just put it that way. We are not in a place where we're loving each other. This is a card of past life problems. I believe some of the things that we're experiencing are not necessarily karma. I don't believe karma is retributive, but I believe it may be triggering past life experiences and maybe even this life experiences. But this is a card saying that what's going on nationally right now, this division that we're experiencing could be exasperated by past life issues, but also it just shows we're all struggling to be the best self that we can be. Now, as we continue on, I don't see necessarily that a lot gets done nationally. I think that we're going to find that really until after the elections, just not a lot happens. But again, just like we had financially and politically, there are these wonderful cards up top of, mid-November through the holidays. And this, to me, I feel that nationally, we just get some reason and we get some common sense going. And again, no matter what side of the aisle you relate to, nobody can argue with reason and common sense. Now, it does show towards the end of the year, there is decisions put off, decisions not made, and I feel they're budgetary. I feel that this has to do with some sort of a national budget that does not get dealt with, just gets kicked, the expression, the can gets kicked down the road. But this makes me feel so excited to see this King of Wands and King of Swords for us nationally around that November after the elections. Just really makes me optimistic that at least there's some common sense that's going to be going on in this country. Okay, let's look globally. If you see me reaching over here, it's because my little piece of paper, my cheat sheet, keeps falling down because the wind from mixing up the tarot cards. So let's look at globally, and there it goes again. Let's look at globally. So when we look at globally, if I can get a feeling of where this is, I'll say that. Otherwise, we're just going to be looking at global events on a broader spectrum. So what's going on globally between now and the end of the year? Oh, this is wonderful. At least somebody's having a good, okay. I feel like this first card has to do with the summit on, I believe there's a summit going on right now, but on temperature rise, on climate change. And I feel they're going to make some long-term plans that include oceans and dealing with oceans, as well as dealing with trees. It's kind of like, let's really look at the damage that's been happening with the forest deforestation, forest growth, forest death, die-off, and also the oceans. So I really like that. Then globally, I feel this has to do with Ireland, England, basically the UK. Now, this could be the Brexit situation, but I'm not educated enough on that to talk about it, but it feels that financially and security-wise, something gets solved, and it feels like it's in the UK, that allows the country to feel safer, more grounded, more protected, but not necessarily safer from terrorism, but feeling that they have, they've got it figured out. They've got how they're going to handle this figured out. I do see beginning of November, I do believe that either China and the U.S., I believe it's China and the U.S., are going to figure something out. And they're going to get it together, and I feel that there's going to be and this may be why we're seeing a rise in the stock market at that time, a worldwide sigh of relief. because I feel China and I think it's China and the U.S. are going to come to some terms. Now, around the holidays, I do feel especially troubles in Jerusalem, Palestine, around the holy days. Gosh, I just think there's going to be a mess down there, and I feel that there's going to be a cry on both sides that not enough is done. And then at year's end, I feel that we're going to, globally, there's going to be a feeling of we can't live with the wool pulled over our eyes anymore. We have to work together. We can't get sidetracked. Now, when I ask about it, I'm not sure if the U.S. is going to participate in that, but I feel overall there's a global coming together towards the end of the year, and I feel it may be led by the U.K. because that card didn't disappear. That was interesting. I swiped them all up, and the UK card, or the card that I perceive as the UK, stayed. Some of the things are good, some of the things not so good. That's life. That's life. When we learn to tolerate the ups and downs, when we learn to recognize that we grow through not only adversity, but how we show up to adversity, how we move through adversity, then we can look at the next couple months not only as the good parts that we saw, and there are a lot of good parts, but how we can use those parts that didn't look quite so good as an opportunity to grow. When we use something called ideals, think of them as how you want to exercise your spiritual growth, whether you want to be more compassionate, more loving, more kind, more present, more compassionate. When we use those in our daily life to help us when we encounter a struggle, that's when we're growing spiritually. And when we can use patience, tolerance, acceptance, all of those things are what are going to help us grow the most. Now, the contest. Here's the fun part. I'm going to post this on Facebook. And if you share it from your Facebook page, and we're Facebook friends, you can friend me, I'm Cindy Griffith-Bennett, then if you share this, then you get entered into a contest that I'm going to pull November 15th. I figure put it kind of right in the middle of this time frame. I'm going to pull it November 15th, and you will, what you win is an aura drawing. And here's some samples. This is an aura drawing that fascinated me. When I first started drawing it, I saw these and I said, oh, we're drawing Ram energy, male energy. But as I continued to draw it, I saw the womb. This person has a fabulous mix of masculine and feminine energy. Here's another. This one I love. This person has an Egyptian past life with the lotuses. What these do is they talk about your energy, your aura, your chakras, but also past lives. This is all this person's soul family. She had a real strong Christian background. She had Joseph of Arimathea. I had to actually look how to spell that. The Holy Host, Mother Mary, Jesus, and it was the Holy Host. I thought that was interesting, not the Holy Ghost. And Joseph, father of Jesus, those were her guides in radiating energy. But she also had these beautiful colors in her aura. And so if you share this, and I'm going to pick one winner out of everyone that shares, then you'll get one of these done free for you. All righty. Well, thank you so much for your time, and remember, you can find out more from me. My name is Cindy Griffith. You can find out more about me at cindygriffith.com or visit my Facebook, and please friend me. That's at Cindy Griffith-Bennett. Thank you so much.